communication is how we all function, and our lives touch other people, whether it be professionally and personally, obviously through communication. And one of the things, I've studied communication for decades, and one of the things that I never stop being fascinated about is how we communicate. So if we think about for just a moment communication, like the whole scope of communication being a pizza pie, we can think about 65% of this pizza pie and how we communicate is with nonverbal communication. Nonverbal means eye contact, how we stand, our posture, what we do with our hands. As women, we tend to, I don't do this because I really can't, but lots of you notice women, they do this little thing about, and it's really, they're trying to make themselves smaller. So that it screams out to me that they lack confidence, not a criticism. It's certainly something that we're conditioned as females to be subservient, quiet, don't rock the boat, etc., which is anti-Kimberly Rice. It's a real problem. I coach women lawyers every day from 25 years old to 75 years old that deal with what we call the confidence gap. But it's very important to realize that when we're communicating, that you cannot say one word, and 65% of how we're communicating is through nonverbal communication. 25% of how we communicate is through our voice. Now, I'm sure maybe you had teachers, professors, you have responsible partners in your law firms, that they may be very intimidating with the way that they use their voice. I remember I had a journalism professor. I went to the University of North Carolina, and when he was going to make a very important point, he would whisper. He would whisper because it would make everybody lean in to hear what they were going to say. So there's some very creative ways that we can use our voice, which is inflection and all. However, we have to be careful, and I think as females, I'm not picking on the females, but how many of us have ever been told by our husbands that we have a tone, or anybody, we have a tone, and it's in the delivery of our messages. So that's 25% of that 100% communication wheel. And only 10%, shockingly, are our words. Oh my goodness. So as articulate and you're trying to communicate, and this is in person, our words over the phone, email, etc., only 10% of how we communicate is delivered by our words. So if you think about the impact of email and texting, for example, you've just taken out 90% of how we communicate because it's not live, or I won't say live, it's not in person. We're not seeing someone's eyes or facial expressions, etc. So I say that to you as a primer of being very focused and concentrated on how it is, and if you're not getting the results that you want, and it has to do with social media as well, because it, again, is a digital form of communication, and so we have to be very careful with our words.